Hello there and a very warm welcome. Welcome to another hour of the Craft Academy. Really looking forward to this show in actual fact because it's an hour dedicated to in-depth instruction, tuition, inspiration about a craft in general, something we very rarely get the chance to do. But this hour is dedicated to a whole hour of Pergamano, a really kind of historic craft, a craft that's got a great, history that we can talk to our guest Rossella about fairly soon. So if you're interested in Pergamano, please do whatever you do, stick around for a whole hour of inspiration and ideas that hopefully will get you interested in that craft in detail. Now, we've got a whole list of lessons that are coming up. To call it lessons probably is the wrong phrase to use. It's going to be fun, and we're going to be looking at lots of different ways of using Pergamano. Have a little look at this because in a second we're going to find out about the history of Pergamano, the tips and the materials. Lesson 2 will be tracing using pencil, ink and also felt tips. Lesson 3, embossing techniques with ball tools and shaders. And then after we've done that, we'll then go on to lesson 4, perforating and snipping using needle tools. And then lesson 5, grid work using multi-grids, straight grids and diagonal grids. And lesson 6, colouring using Perga colours. And as I say, normally in a normal show, we only get to kind of touch on a few tips and techniques, but in a show like this, Rossella, we can go into more detail. We can get to grips with where the craft started and how you can get involved in it. Good to see you.
And you too, Dave.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Pergamano, because I did mention at the start of the show there that it's got legs. It's got a real, very dignified history, hasn't it?
Oh yes, I mean we've always used vellum, haven't we, to write on? We used animal vellum, and then obviously during the Middle Ages, in religious art, particularly for illuminated manuscripts, it was very popular, and then it was very European at that point, but then when the Spanish went over to South America, they took it with them, and it's still used then in convents, and it's called convent art over there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it's some exquisite work. So it's really, really old. Victorian times, again, it was very popular because they liked the greeting cards, didn't they? Right. So it came into being then. So it's a really old art.
So for people watching who've never really heard of Pergamano before, what is it?
Well, Pergamano is the brand name, so that's been running for over 25 years now. Right. So we're pretty good at what we do now. And this is the colour, the logo. You'll see the tools around. And so basically it's manipulating our parchment paper. So this is parchment paper, this is not vellum. Okay. This is a heavyweight parchment paper that's made to be robust so that it won't split, so that it'll put up with embossing and perforating.
So parchment is a lot thicker than vellum?
It is, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we need the proper tools for it. Okay. We have a selection of tools that we use, but actually not too many. It's a really portable craft. I mean, just what's surrounding me here is pretty much all you're ever going to need.
Right.
So it's
not a craft that requires a massive investment at the start?
No, not at all, and you don't need to be in your craft room to do it.
All right.
You can just take it around. I take it around the house with me whilst I'm cooking, I'm doing it, or when I collect the children from school, I take it with me. So no, it's really, really portable. We just need a few essentials. Okay. So if we just run through those, we've got our tools, we'll look at those later. We've got our parchment paper, a bit of low-tack tape, a tumble dry sheet, it'll all become clear, some water because we're going to use our inks, this little gem called Pergasoft, which I use to wax my tools, and again we'll see that later, a little bit of black card, kitchen roll, keep under a hand, sweaty paws.
Right, to keep your work clean.
Exactly,
yeah,
and that's pretty much all we need.
Well, that's good. A craft that you can quite easily get involved with without massive outlay at the start, which is always good news, isn't it? Now, we're going to move on to talk about our first technique then.
Yes.
I'm going to go on to tracing first of all.
We are.
So there are various different techniques with Pergamano.
That's right. There's different techniques, there's different materials that we can use to trace. So we're going to start, if we just have a look at ink actually to start with, and I think we'll start with coloured ink. Can you see that is actually traced with coloured ink and then and filled in with coloured ink, and then this one is also just the tree is traced in coloured ink.
Do you know what though? Instantly this is appealing to me because it takes me back to my childhood. I know it's a totally different league, but using tracing paper when I was a kid, that was the only way I could draw.
Yeah.
I couldn't do drawing freehand, so Pergamano is perhaps the grown-up version of.
It is, and it's perfect if you aren't a natural artist and you don't naturally want to draw your own designs, because you can trace designs that other people have made.
Fantastic. Okay.
So the first tool that we need with our ink is this, which is a mapping pen, which I love because it's like an old-fashioned fountain pen, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
And it's just great fun to use. So if we're going to do coloured ink, that will do. And we'll get some paper, just attach it to our pattern with a little bit of low-tack tape. There we go.
And you normally teach this, do you?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Do you normally get loads of people coming to you for instruction?
I like to do it actually in small groups, because then people, I think, are able to ask questions, aren't they?
I like the one-on-one thing that we've got going on. I like that.
I like that as well.
Personal tuition. I like that.
So all we're going to do, we don't need to shake this coloured ink, is just dip it in to about the hole in the pen and then just trace. And you know, it's such good fun. You forget how nice tracing is actually. And you don't have to worry too much about sticking to your lines, because when you've actually done your project, there's not anyone who's going to come up and say, actually, you've not done it exactly to the lines, are they? So don't worry about it, just relax and enjoy it.
When was the last time you dipped a quill in
Exactly.
ink? I can't remember the last time I used an ink pen at all. So
And
it really, it makes you feel as if you're going back in time, doesn't
Exactly, yes. And it's the traditional method of doing parchment. We don't have to use the ink if we don't want to, but it's just actually quite a nice thing to do. It's very, very relaxing. So I'm actually going to colour all of this. We'll just do the circle for the centre there. And it's really quite quick, as long as you can just enjoy it, relax into it.
And maybe you've got access to something like clip art, for example, that's maybe copyright free or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's so many of those around these days.
Yeah,
isn't there?
you can get your inspiration from anywhere at all. Now, as in the case of that one, I've got a little bubble at the top of my ink. So what you need to do is pop it well away from, oh, it's gone now, well away from your parchment. Otherwise you'll end up with little splatters all over it.
And do you find that there are certain colours that are more appropriate for the craft than others, or?
Actually, no, I like colour, so anything at all that I fancy on that day, really.
Right. It's good you only need to use the one pen.
It is, it's great. And it's just so quick, isn't it?
Because you're not really filling a cartridge or anything like that.
No.
You're just putting ink on the nib and then...
And it's not drying out
Clean
or
it.
anything like that. Yep, just keep cleaning it. And then we'll just finish this one because I'm going to use it later.
And you can use, although you're using ink there with a quill pen, you can use pencils and felt tips as well.
Yep, I'm going to show us those in just a moment. So we'll just quickly trace this one. So can you see how easy it is? I'm not holding this pen with any pressure. I don't want to splay it, and it'll just glide over the parchment paper.
It amazes me how fine those lines are. Yeah. That nib is just wafer thin, isn't
It is, and we can actually get them finer still if we want to. So we'll just take that one off.
It doesn't drag on the parchment at all?
Not at all. So if you want to have a look at that with that, whilst I just get some more parchment.
Look how absolutely fine those images are. Aren't they beautiful?
So that's just the beginning.
And
we would
that
then
was
move
achieved,
on.
and that could be achieved by anyone. I could have done that because I'm not artistic. Well, I am artistic, but I'm not very good at drawing or painting. But I can trace. I think most people can.
Yeah. You know, this is great for children.
Yeah.
It really is. For a start, it gives them great skills, particularly with the tracing. But then also, because when we get to the embossing, it's instant. They make that mark instantly on the paper, and it's very clean. There's no crayoning. You're not going to get crayon on the furniture with this.
If you drop your parchment on the floor, it's not a problem, is
Not
it?
really.
Can I ask you, parchment sounds very expensive.
Oh, not at all. It's
No?
really inexpensive. And as you can see, you only need little bits. Don't use a whole sheet because then you'll end up creasing it and wasting it anyway. So just use exactly what you need.
Okay.
The white ink has got a bubble on it. So again, straight away from your parchment, and you're going to trace just as we have before. Now, I tend to use ink when I want to see the design. So that's the reason we use white pencil, is sometimes because I like to erase it afterwards, because I quite like a loose edge on my designs. So if I'm going to use ink, I'm using it because I want to see it.
Okay. So a pencil you'd use if you didn't want to see it,
Yeah.
ink you'd use if you did.
Yeah. Now the little black card, because it's white ink on white paper, you need a little bit of black card with it. So, because if you do break off and have a chat...
See, I didn't think anything was coming off the nib then.
Exactly. You don't know where you've got to, do you? So it's very traditional to trace in white ink, and you can actually get a really, really fine line if you want it to disappear. But I find that if I get a really fine line, I can't see it then to emboss. So I'm afraid we have to have a line.
Is it a craft that people have like inherited interest from their parents or members of the family, or are you getting lots of new people finding this?
Lots and lots of new people. It's lovely. I think people, when they're crafting, we're quite sophisticated now, aren't we? We've come so that we actually want to put something of ourselves in it. And I think with Parchment Craft, because it starts from that plain bit of paper, doesn't it?
And it's something you can pick up and put down, as in when you've got 5 or 10 minutes spare.
Precisely, yep. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it takes such a long time. Well, it doesn't have to. It can be as long as you like. And I often think, well, if it does take a long time, that's how much enjoyment you've had out of it.
Yeah. And I bet the hours just go like that, don't
Oh,
they?
absolutely, yes. Absolutely. So that's your white ink tracing.
Okay. Just get your black
Sorry,
card.
yeah.
That's all right. Now, actually looking at it as I am, without any black card behind it, it doesn't look as if there's anything there, really, until, look at that. Isn't that lovely? It almost looks like it's been cut out, but it's actually a fine white line.
Now that is a permanent line.
Right.
Okay, so
Next you're going to do
the white pencil.
Okay, pencil, sorry.
So it's just a nice soft white pencil, and again, it's so quick and easy to trace.
And very traditional again, the pencil, but this is what you would use if you don't want it to be visible.
That's right, because I will erase the lines anyway, so it doesn't matter if I don't stick to my lines.
Just an ordinary eraser?
Yeah,
pen
just
eraser?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So an ordinary one from the station is fine. And I need my black card again because I've missed a petal there.
What do you find you do most of? Is it mainly florals or is it all sorts?
I personally do, because that's the sort of person I am, but once you start this craft and you start looking at some of the artwork that people put out there, fantastic things. I mean, I've done things like dragons, because I've got a little boy who was heavily into dragons when he was younger, and fairies and ballerinas as well. But I tend to stick to the flowers, but absolutely any subject at all. It's actually a really popular craft with men. And so I think they possibly don't necessarily always do florals.
Right.
Some of them do. I'm just going to put the lid on the ink because I have a bag that's black now because I spilled ink on it. So,
oh, right,
yeah,
okay.
So always good discipline to actually put the lid back on your ink. So there we go.
That's with white pencil?
And that's with white pencil, and then we're going to move on with that.
So that's white ink, white pencil and coloured ink using the quill. And
then, so this one is a card that we've got that's actually been used with white ink, just as we have, and or white pencil. But then the other thing we can use, of course, is our felt tips.
I would never have thought that.
Well, they're specifically designed these for parchment. You can see we've got lots of great colours in there, haven't
Crikey,
we?
yeah, got loads.
Yeah, absolutely. But these are, that's an example of that. These are water-based felt tips, and you'll see there's a really, really fine end on one and a really quite thick for colouring on the other, which we'll come on to later.
So they are specialist pens for this particular craft,
They
yeah,
are,
for Pergamano?
yeah, because they're perfect for painting with as well.
Oh, right.
So we put the felt tip on a palette and pick it up with a brush. And again, lovely to trace. So perhaps if you want to be a little bit more portable, then you can take your tool bag with your pens in rather than attempting to take the ink on the train or wherever you're going.
Out of all four techniques, though, which would you say is your most favourite to use?
I think possibly with the white pencil, because I do quite like my white work. But then that depends, you see. If I'm doing a pattern that's then coloured, then it would, my favourite then that day would be colour as well, wouldn't it? So I say that. At this present second in time, it's white work, but that's open to change.
How did you get into this?
About 14 years ago, I was in a craft shop having a look round. I've always done crafts, always. And I just saw a little kit and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's not something I've ever heard of or I've ever seen before. Took it home and thought, oh, I like this.
The rest is history.
Yeah,
now you're
absolutely.
An
Well, yes, I found somewhere that did classes and I found a tutor. And then about, 7 or 8 years ago, I trained to be a tutor myself and started teaching. And yeah, and it's just, it's a lovely, lovely craft. It does slow you down. It's really relaxing.
And in this day and age, we could do with that.
Well, exactly. And if you can even stop, even for just 10 minutes, it's worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, if you have got time on your hands, maybe through no fault of your own, maybe you're convalescing or something, or you're poorly or whatever, it's something you can easily have in the bedroom with you if you are in bed. You can take it with you when you go away somewhere and have a little look. Let's show you all the different techniques, actually. So this is the felt pen technique. I'll get the black card again.
Yeah, sorry, there you go.
That's all right, thank you. So, and they are specific pens just for Pergamano. So that's that one. We've then got the white pencil, which I believe is that one there, I think. Is that the white pencil? Yes, I think it is. That's your white pencil. And then the ink, which is the white ink, just here. That's slightly finer, because obviously the nib of the pen is that much finer. And then we have the multicoloured ink as well, again using the quill pen. So all those different techniques equally as good as each other, all part, of course, of Pergamano. That's lesson number 1, but there's more to come.